What you're about to experience is one man's quest to see beyond the tumultuous period we're in and to envision what lies just beyond our grasp, yet well within our reach. Welcome to Larry Rifkin's America Trends, where the future has arrived, and it's just in time.
On AmericaTrendsPodcast.com, we are off and running. We are getting our suitcase. John and I are packed. We've got all of our... Do you have your passport, John?
Oh, I think I got to get that
renewed. I knew that. Oops. I knew it. I heard a story about somebody who actually had their dog chomp on their passport. And they don't like that. They don't take kindly to certain numbers being missing on your passports. Well, our travel series is tremendous. We love it. Veronica Stoddart got us off to a great start. And now let's turn the page on travel to something very, very specific, that being what they call, John, eco-travel.
Yeah, I've never thought about eco-travel. How can you be?
You mean you just leave a mess wherever you go?
I just,
yeah, I know. And you play the ugly American everywhere you go. Hey, get me that now. I'm from the United States. And they look at you like, wow. Well, if you're listening to this episode and you haven't heard the first one, you got to go back and listen to Veronica Stoddart's, where she was amazing about these trends in travel. So circle back and listen to that. But now, I know at times that I can be Captain Obvious, so let me lay claim to that title once again by saying that planet Earth, John, is an amazing place.
It certainly is.
In fact, it's the only place I know. I've lived here all my life, or most of it, at least this life.
Right.
I may have been on another plane in another life.
That's true, but that's another podcast.
Yes, I'm sure we'll get to that. But there's a new form of travel out there that suggests we not just see the world, but we actually go out there and try to make it better in some way.
That's a good idea. It is. It's a great idea.
So it involves what they call traveling in a way that we don't leave a trace. Leave a trace. Wasn't that Without a Trace, a movie?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Oh, somebody was taken.
I don't know how.
Wait a minute, Taken. That was another movie.
Right. But they were
Or they vanished.
They were.
Oh, that was another movie.
Yes, there was a lot of movies.
A lot of missing people out there. But they're all coming back to listen to America Trends podcast. But in fact, in many cases, we try to make our trip something that actually contributes to the site that we go in. And that's what the whole idea of eco-travel is. But there's a lot of things to think about if you're really looking for a trip to educate the young'uns in the family about the importance of environment and the like. And it means a whole different mindset as to where and how you travel in many ways. Yeah. But you can really be an ecological traveler, I would imagine, just about anywhere, the developed world, the developing world. And we get into all of that with Bret Love, and he's a really interesting guy. And some say he's one of the great experts in America on this topic.
Kokomo, right?
Kokomo? Way down here.
No, that's Mike Love. No, I'm sorry.
Mike Love? Oh, no. Let's not go there. He knows I love Brian Wilson. Mike Love? So let's get to Bret Love. He's really interesting, and he'll give us the do's and don'ts of traveling with conservation in mind. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Well, with us is Bret Love, and he is with Green Global Travel. It's an ecotourism, nature, wildlife conservation, and cultural preservation website. And Bret, thanks for joining us on AmericaTrendsPodcast.com.
Thanks for having me, Larry. Appreciate it.
Let's start first with the basics. What is ecotourism?
Well, ecotourism is defined by the International Ecotourism Society as responsible travel to natural areas that improves the well-being of the local environment and the local people. We like to reinforce to people, a lot of people just think of it as nature travel, but we say if it doesn't benefit both the ecology and the economy of a place, then it's not truly eco.
And do we think, as Americans generally, that as long as we're contributing to the economy of a small island or a faraway place, that we're doing our part? Is that generally the way we've looked at things?
Well, I mean, there are different levels of doing our part. There's the bare minimum of making sure that you're contributing to a locally owned company instead of some international conglomerate who hires people from another island or from, a developing nation where they can get cheap labor. Hiring people in the local workforce is part of it. Shopping with local artisans who produce their own work rather than selling mass-produced things that are made in China. All of these things are part of what ecotourism and responsible travel is all about. But of course, everybody's got their different level that they're comfortable with. But I would say that starting with making sure that the money you spend in the local economy is staying with the local economy is kind of like a bare minimum for entry. You know what I mean?
And do people look for these opportunities today? Do they say, not only do I really want to have fun and I want to be in the sun or whatever, but I really want to do these things more responsibly and be an ecotourist? And do we know what percentage of those traveling these days are really looking for that kind of experience?
Well, from what I understand, the Center for Responsible Travel is one of the leading authorities on this stuff, and they do an annual study of the ecotourism industry. And from what I understand, when we first started out doing Green Global Travel about 6.5, 7 years ago, ecotourism was maybe, I want to say about 12% of the overall tourism market. And in recent years, it's crept up closer to 20% of the overall market. A lot of the surveys that they've done through some of the major booking websites and some major travel companies show that, the vast majority of people who travel have an interest in traveling responsibly, and they do look for, ecotourism or responsible travel opportunities. The problem is I don't think the mass tourism audience is quite educated on what is and is not responsible travel yet to really be able to make those discernments between what's really green and what's just greenwashing, which, there are a lot of major companies, there are major cruise lines that are saying, oh, we're, doing this, we're recycling our water and that makes us eco-friendly, or, an airline that says we'll offset your carbon emissions and that makes us eco-friendly. That's not really true. But people don't really yet have the understanding to know when they're being lied to by these corporations that are just trying to tap into the eco market, which is growing. And people have shown, studies have shown that people will spend more for a responsible travel experience that they feel gives back to the local communities and makes a positive impact. They will spend more for that experience. But unfortunately, then you have companies that know that and will therefore try to tap into it without going to all the lengths. But there are things you can look for, like certification programs. There's the LEED building certification, LEED, here in the U.S. There are a lot of green initiatives abroad that you can look for online, like Green Globe. Costa Rica's got their 5-leaf sustainability rating system. There are a lot of these systems, but I don't think they're yet well known enough by the mainstream tourism audience. But the numbers are growing, and as long as they continue to see those statistics of people who are looking for those experiences grow, more and more companies are coming to offer those types of experiences, and more people are taking an interest in defining what sustainable travel is so that we can have some sort of, blueprint for how it works.
I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, "Leave no trace." And in some of your materials, you have a statement, "Take only pictures, leave only footprints." And one of the first principles of ecotourism that you lay out is minimizing impact. Give us examples of that.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of little things you can do, like we talked about earlier about the different levels. We call them baby steps to going green. There's a lot of little things you can do when you travel that can make what seems to be a small, minimal impact. But if you do enough of those things and then other people start doing enough of those things, collectively it makes a huge impact. And there's a lot of them, but I'll just run through a few of our favorites. The simplest one is to take a refillable water bottle with you everywhere you go and use, the tap, and assuming the place where you are has, potable tap water. And don't buy bottled water because the amount of plastic that is polluting the ocean and, the carbon footprint of the companies that make the plastic things is terrible. So that's like the simplest thing you can do. When you are in your hotel or your resort, take shorter showers. Turn up the faucet while you're shaving and brushing your teeth. Reuse your towels for multiple days, and never, ever use the hotel laundry because they always wash each guest's clothes separately, even if you only have a few items. One of our favorite tips is when we leave our hotel room, not only do we turn off the lights and the AC and the TV and all of that stuff, but we leave a do not disturb sign on the door so the housekeeping staff won't clean our room every day.
That's an interesting idea. Are there hotel chains or countries that really help you more than others, where they really reinforce this whole message that you're sharing with us today about ecotourism?
Obviously every country has its good guys and its bad guys. There are no black and whites, but there are countries like obviously Costa Rica was one of the innovators of ecotourism, and they continue to innovate, and they have quite a few hotels and resorts and tour operators there that specialize in offering responsible ecotourism experiences. But even in places where, sort of mass tourism has gone crazy, like Thailand. Thailand was the subject of a documentary that came out a couple of years ago called Gringo Trails that talks about how mass tourism sort of ultimately denigrates the local scene wherever it goes, just by nature. But there are places you can go there like Elephant Nature Park, which is one of the leading conservation places in saving the Asian elephants from the abusive practices of the logging and the tourism industry, where you can go and you can volunteer with elephants and you can actually wash elephants and feed them and, walk around with them during the day and get these intimate hands-on experiences. So it's not so much. There are some countries that really prioritize eco-friendliness. Costa Rica, like I mentioned, Belize, Scandinavia in general, Norway and Sweden are great. But there are little pockets of it everywhere you go. Even here close to where you live. I'm in Atlanta, and there are places in North Georgia that are great ecotourism experiences. So you can find it pretty much anywhere you go. You just have to know what to look for.
And of course, I think by virtue of the last answer, you answered the next question. But just to pose it, we're not talking here only about developing countries. We're talking about developed countries too.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, the thing is, the take only pictures, leave only footprints, that was sort of the basis for where this all started, but now it's gotten to be even more than that. That was kind of a first do no harm kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now it's try to leave the place better than it was when you got there. Try to leave a positive impact as opposed to just a neutral impact. And you can do that anywhere. I mean, we live here in North Atlanta, and we have a pontoon boat that we keep docked on Lake Allatoona, 20 minutes from our house. And we do simple things like we take a garbage bag with us every time we go to the lake. And if we see garbage on the lake, we make a game with a fishing net of picking up the garbage and taking a bag of garbage out with us. It's something you can do anywhere, whether you're doing a staycation close to home or you're going around the world. It's all about tying into that whole idea of sustainable living and trying to minimize our negative impact, our carbon footprint on the planet.
We're talking to Bret Love about what is ecotourism. One of the first things that you tell us that people find very difficult to do often is to pack light. What's the importance of that as part of ecotourism?
Well, there's a couple of important aspects of that for both ecotourism and for just being, economically smart. It saves money on baggage fees, for one. It increases the fuel efficiency of the plane, for another. So what we do is we often pack items that we can wash in the sink and can be dried quickly. So we never ever check our luggage, even when we're doing 3 weeks in Antarctica and Patagonia.
Wow.
We pack in a carry-on, a 21-inch carry-on. We roll all our clothes tightly to maximize the packing space, and then we take clothes that can be washed and dried quickly. And that way we don't need to take but a couple of different outfits, for our time in a given place. And, you don't lose your luggage. We've never had lost luggage, which is great. We've never had luggage charges, and it does increase the plane's fuel efficiency.
What about children? I mean, this would be a great thing to make certain that you're doing your travels with your children and starting at a very young age for them, getting them used to being a responsible traveler and tourist.
Yes, absolutely. I started traveling with my daughter literally 3 weeks after she was born, and now she's 15 years old, and she's been all around the world, Galapagos Islands, South Africa, Costa Rica. I find it is a great way, kids do learn about the environment and energy and conservation. They learn these principles in school, but it's really different to learn it from a page and to actually go to the places where these things are being put into practice and to talk to the local people who are being hired by these responsible tourism companies and getting an opportunity, to feed their families and to make a life for themselves by sharing the beauty of their homeland with travelers. And you talk to these people and you realize what a monumental impact it makes, not just on them, but on their whole communities, because then they're spending that money they're making in the communities and lifting that whole community up. It's an amazing experience to connect with people and have these intimate, once-in-a-lifetime experiences, and to share that with your children and teach them that we are the stewards of this planet and it's our responsibility to help take care of it. We need more of that, so I love, seeing people who do these types of trips with their kids, who go to national parks here in the United States. It's the national parks was one of the original ideas of ecotourism, of conservation and using tourism to fund conservation. It's one of the best things you can do with your kids. And I mean, we have so many amazing memories that I think bring us closer. And when she moves on with her life, I think we'll still be close and we'll still travel together because we spent so much time creating these amazing memories together.
And Bret, what I think is great, if you're just a responsible traveler and you do a lot of the things that you talk about in terms of how you leave your hotel and the way that you travel and the like, and then buy local. We were in Puerto Rico recently, and even if we don't think we're on an ecotourism trip, and somebody told us where there were all these indigenous artists and where their work was compiled, and we went there to avoid some of the other traps and some of the things that came in from outside. So you don't have to think that you're doing a trip that is truly an ecotourism trip to adopt a lot of these principles.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of these things are things that more and more people, are doing at home anyway, eating farm-to-table food, trying not to take plastic bags when they go to the store. It's just carrying those same ideas with us when we travel and making sure that, we are leaving as little negative impact and as much positive impact as we can on a place. And yeah, I mean, you talk about shopping in those local indigenous artisans. You get some amazing stories, just talking to the people who make this stuff that you take home. And I think it makes these souvenirs a lot more meaningful down the road, that you actually had a conversation with the guy who made it with his own hands.
Oh, absolutely. What about the notion that you share about honoring local traditions? This would seem to be a great way to really understand where you've been and not just be somebody who walks through a situation and is unfazed or unaffected by it.
You can go to Disney or wherever, and I love those kind of experiences as well, and I had those experiences when I was younger, and you can experience elements of another culture there, and it's fun. But when you go to a community where we did this one in the island of Dominica in the Eastern Caribbean, and there's this place called the Kalinago Barana Ate. The Kalinago are the original people of the Caribbean. They were known as the Carib Indians. and there's still a population there, and they have their own little village that they've established where you can go and experience traditional Kalinago, Caribbean Indian life, learn about, how they made their food and how they lived, and go inside a traditional hut. And, you don't just watch them dance. You get up and dance with them, and you learn their dances, and you learn what they mean. And it just gives so much more meaning to your trip. And it's something that not everybody gets to do. So I always encourage people, if you have a chance to interact and sort of immerse yourself in these local community experiences, it always enhances your understanding of a place.
Now, Bret, I know that you suggest that we travel very light, but at the same time, you also suggest that we give back, that these developing nations, if that's where we go to get this experience, are in need of a lot of basic necessities. So how do we balance that?
Well, I mean, everybody does what they can. That's what it is. I mean, I'm a travel writer, so I'm not wealthy by any means. But just something like when we went to Tanzania on safari a few years ago, we asked the company that we were traveling with if there was something we could do to help with the local, help out local schools or anything like that. So we bought about $60 worth of school supplies, things like pencils and paper and crayons and these great little inflatable globes that were like a beach ball that had a world map on it. And we just packed these little things that didn't take up hardly any space in our luggage. And when we went and visited a couple of local schools, and we gave them these things. And then when we were in this little Maasai community in Tanzania, we learned that some of the girls there, they don't encourage the girls to continue education after ninth grade because it's kind of a traditional hunter-gatherer, nomadic pastoralist society. And there were some girls who wanted to go on to finish their high school and possibly even college. So we decided we were going to, sort of help sponsor a girl from the village so she could go to school. And the money that it takes, is a couple of $100 a year, which is not a whole lot, and it changes a life. So I feel like, if you have an opportunity and you are blessed and you are fortunate enough to visit these amazing places around the world, any little thing that you can do to give back to it is always, greatly appreciated. There's a great organization called Pack for a Purpose that is a nonprofit that can help coordinate if you're going to a part of the world. They can help you coordinate with the local communities there, and they can actually tell you exactly what they're in need of so that you can pack a little bit extra.
Oh, that's great. So Pack for a Purpose.
I think it's packforapurpose.org.
All right. In closing, Bret, just remind us, if somebody's thinking about this and says, well, I really need a little guidance the first time that I'm really out as an eco-tourist or traveler, and I want to go to a company that really has an ethos that supports what I'm trying to do, how do we know that it's not just a marketing ploy? What kind of good housekeeping seals are there on various travel packages that assure us of that?
Well, I mean, the real truth is that you have to ask some questions. That's the tough part, is that you have to take the time to ask the questions. But there are things that you can look for, like we talked about earlier, the different Green Globe and LEED certifications and things of that nature. I always look for, companies that have an affiliation with National Geographic or World Wildlife Fund. Doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're 100% eco-friendly, but National Geographic does not allow their brand to be affiliated with just anyone. So these are brands that we sort of trust. So we look for those sort of things. We look for companies that are affiliated with, like, Rainforest Alliance or the International Ecotourism Society. Looking at those kinds of things and looking at the awards and recognition that they won in the industry, that's usually a good place to start. And then, of course, you can always do searches on TripAdvisor or websites like ours. We write about all of the places that we go, and we never write about a place that we wouldn't personally recommend to our friends. So, it just takes a little bit of research, but I think the enhanced experience that you get from doing that research more than makes up for the time that you invest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You'd be great company on any trip. And by the way, if you want to go and read about some of these tips and principles of ecotourism, go to greenglobaltravel.com. And Bret Love, a great writer and somebody who walks the walk and talks the talk. I thank you so much, Bret, for being with us today on America Trends Podcast. It was our delight to have you on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Larry. It was a great time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. If you like this episode, please leave us a kind rating or review. I'm on my hands and knees. Please do it on iTunes because your review is really critical for us to continue providing this podcast. And John, I know that iTunes looks at this. They want to make certain that we have some rankings, some visibility, and that we're getting some traffic, and then they give you better positioning.
Absolutely. And this way it'll put us in the forefront so you can find us much easier on your iPhone or Android, whatever you may be using.
And they may even send you out an alert. So please, if you can, don't miss a single episode of America Trends Podcast. And, John, they can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher.com.
And also subscribe on our website.
Oh, absolutely.
We send out a little blurb, and we can also take your emails there at newsletter@rifkinradio.com. That's another way to get us.
And we do not sell or share our lists.
No spamming, nothing.
Well, I don't know. Does anybody want our lists? I don't know, but we don't do it.
Good question.
Even if they asked us. Nobody's asked us. But.
Right.
And when you do subscribe, let us know on Facebook and Twitter. We're getting very active on Facebook and Twitter. Our handle on both platforms, and John, this is really easy, @Trends Podcast. That's it.
That's real easy.
You like that? Did you get that?
I got that.
Okay.
I'm going to have to check it out now. I'm going to have to twit it.
We want to thank you, of course, personally for subscribing. And we also would like to get some of your ideas and questions for future episodes of America Trends Podcast. And that's important, too, because we're all over the map. Our interest editorially in the future, John, has no bounds. But we want to know what it is that you'd like to hear from us. If there was a segment that you'd like to see us follow up on, or if there's something in depth that you'd like us to deal with, please let us know that, too.
We're looking at the future. There's so much we can look at.
Yeah, and the topics that we've dealt with, I mean, we have gotten such incredible guests over the recent period, but they're only going to come to us if they know we've got an engaged and interactive audience.
Absolutely.
So it's really important that you become part of this podcast in so many different ways that we're sharing with you today.
You're absolutely right. We need your support and your help and your reviews.
And your ideas.
And ideas.
Or questions on Facebook and Twitter. And by the way, you can direct message us @Trends Podcast or using the hashtag Trends Podcast. You can also add an email address if you have a public one that you'd like us to give out.
Yeah, good. Hey, and you know what? We didn't mention Amazon.
Oh, yes. We have an Amazon store.
Yes.
And so if you go up, you don't have to buy the things that might be highlighted at that particular time. You can buy any book, and there's some benefit that comes back
Just
to
put
us.
what you're looking at in the little search engine block there, and it'll take you right to Amazon, and it'll help us out.
Absolutely. And it doesn't really cost you anything more because they have built that into their pricing structure. So we get a little taste and you get more programming like this and you get the item that you were looking for. So it works for all of us.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely. Win-win-win.
Win-win-win.
So for more information on America Trends and for the latest updates on upcoming episodes, be sure to like our page on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. You can find us at Trends Podcast. And again, you can find John and I here in our studio performing as best we can for you.
That's right.
And
Let us out.
What's that? They're not going to let us out. No one is. Hey, listen, thank you so much for joining us today on America Trends. We'll see you next time.
We hope to hear from you soon.
Oh, by the way, we are posting all the time. And we're posting on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Good point.
So just be aware, if you're looking for new episodes, they're coming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. When you wake up, before you go out on your jog or your walk and you want to take us with you, we'll be there for you.
Very good.
All right. Have a great day.